What if I told you Roman Reigns could walk back into Monday Night Raw at any moment, and take the World Heavyweight Championship from Seth Rollins before the bell even rings at SummerSlam? That's not hype. That's not a prediction. That's the feeling tightening around WWE like a storm front, dense, slow building, and inevitable. There are moments in professional wrestling when everything feels bigger than the ring. Louder than the pop. Deeper than the storyline. This is one of those moments. Because when Roman Reigns returns, it doesn't just shake up a locker room, it shakes the entire foundation of WWE. And here's the kicker, it's already started. This week's episode of Raw dropped a subtle, blink and you miss it teaser. No name. No theme music. Just a shadow. A camera lingered half a second too long backstage. A hallway shot, empty, or maybe not. The internet did the rest. Twitter blew up. Reddit melted. YouTubers paused and zoomed. That's all it takes when the name behind the mystery is Roman Reigns. Because everyone knows this much, when Roman Reigns comes back, he doesn't come back quietly. It's been months since we last saw the tribal chief. After the seismic collapse of the bloodline at WrestleMania 40, Roman disappeared. Gone from TV. Gone from headlines. The longest-reigning modern champion of the last decade suddenly vanished. And with that vanishing act, WWE did something brilliant. They created absence that felt like anticipation. There were no promos. No farewell. No injury angles or kayfabe injuries. Just silence. And in that silence, a question began to form, a question that's now grown into a roar across the WWE universe. When is Roman Reigns coming back, and who is he coming for? Now we might have the answer. According to multiple insider reports, Roman is set to return before SummerSlam. But that's just the surface. Behind the scenes, WWE is apparently planning something massive, something with title implications, legacy rewrites, and main event chaos. The kind of return that doesn't just alter one match, but rewires the entire card. And the most explosive piece of that plan? Roman Reigns versus Seth freaking Rollins, for the World Heavyweight Championship. Let that sink in. This isn't a rematch. This isn't unfinished business. This is a collision of legacies that have evolved under the same sky but never finished orbiting each other. You know the history. Roman and Seth didn't meet. They were made. Forged together in one of the most iconic stables in wrestling history, the Shield. Roman was the muscle. Seth was the architect. Ambrose was the chaos. Together, they were a revolution. Then came the chair shot. That betrayal by Seth Rollins, all those years ago, didn't just break up a faction. It launched two of the most important solo careers WWE has ever seen. Reigns went on to become the big dog, then the tribal chief, the centerpiece of SmackDown and the longest-reigning Universal Champion of the modern era. Rollins evolved through pain and precision, becoming a Grand Slam champion, a fashion-forward madman, and finally, the inaugural World Heavyweight Champion of this new era. They'd danced around each other for years. Teased confrontations. Crossed paths at Survivor Series. But they never truly finished what they started. Until now. This isn't just about who's more dominant. This is about WWE's past colliding with its future at the exact moment when the brand is redefining itself. SummerSlam is shaping up to be more than just a big event. It's the pivot point for the next generation of WWE storytelling. John Cena vs. Cody Rhodes is rumored to headline one night. CM Punk is finally back in the mix, reigniting his old rivalries with Fire and Venom. Gunther has broken records and is ready to be elevated. Seth Rollins is the workhorse, the one who stayed when everyone else left. And then there's Roman, the man who's been at the center of every WWE pay-per-view earthquake for the last 3 years. Let's not sugarcoat it, Reigns' return puts everything into motion. Because if Roman Reigns walks down that ramp and locks eyes with Seth Rollins, it's not just a pop. It's an announcement. He's not coming back to talk. He's coming back to take. And in a world where the lines between Raw and SmackDown have blurred, titles aren't boundaries anymore. They're battlegrounds. This match isn't just about titles. It's about validation. Roman Reigns built his empire under Paul Heyman's brilliance and the crumbling dynasty of the Bloodline. He had muscle, manipulation, and momentum. But there's always been this narrative hanging over him, a question whispered in wrestling corners: would Roman be Roman if Seth Rollins had stayed on his path? Rollins, for his part, clawed his way back through injury, rehab, stale character runs, and fan fatigue. He reinvented himself when no one asked him to. He kept working when others walked. And now, he stands as champion not because he manipulated power, but because he earned it. This match would be a collision of philosophies. Roman, dominance through legacy, control, and storytelling power. Seth, resilience, adaptation, and wrestling as an art form. This isn't about who gets the pinfall. It's about who finally answers the question they've both been avoiding for years: who really carried the Shield? Fans know when a match matters. They feel it in their bones. That's why this possible showdown has already spiked SmackDown viewership, sent Raw segments trending, and driven Twitter, or X, if you're corporate, into overdrive. The rumors have been fast and chaotic: Roman's returning with a new look. Seth's going to turn heel before SummerSlam. CM Punk will cost Seth the match and set up his own title shot. It's going to be a fatal four-way. Or a triple threat. Or a War Games teaser. Everyone's fantasy booking. Everyone's speculating. But underneath all of it, there's one constant: this match feels like destiny. And you can't fake that. Let's go back to that Raw teaser. No music. No Titantron. Just a pause. A camera shift. A hallway that seemed too still. Maybe that wasn't random. Maybe that was a warning shot. If Roman Reigns is truly about to walk back into the WWE universe, and if he's setting his sights on the World Heavyweight Championship, then this summer isn't just going to be hot. It's going to explode. Get ready. There are eras in WWE that define more than just who holds the championship. They define the mood, the tone, the tempo of the entire product. From Hulkamania to the Attitude Era, from Cena's Superman run to the Yes Movement, each phase had a face. A symbol. A gravitational force that everything else circled around. For the last 3 years, that force has been Roman Reigns. Not just the tribal chief. Not just the head of the table. Roman Reigns became the embodiment of WWE dominance. And he didn't do it alone. He built an empire. A dynasty. A faction so dominant and so layered that it blurred the line between fiction and reality. That dynasty was called the Bloodline. It started quietly, with Roman's transformation during the pandemic era. Stripped of live crowds and the energy of packed arenas, Roman came back from medical leave with something different. He wasn't grinning anymore. He wasn't pandering. He walked into the Thunderdome as a man on a mission. Aligned with Paul Heyman, he reinvented himself into something far more dangerous than a heel. He became a ruler. The moment he forced Jey Uso to acknowledge him, beating the respect out of his own cousin at Clash of Champions and then again at Hell in a Cell. That was the true birth of the Bloodline. What started as a manipulation quickly turned into loyalty. Jey fell in line. Jimmy followed. Solo was called up from NXT and added as the enforcer. And together, they became WWE's most unstoppable force. Week after week, they stacked opponents. They buried challengers. Roman held the Universal Championship like it was a family heirloom. His title defenses weren't just matches. They were declarations. You don't beat the tribal chief. You survive him. The numbers told the story. Over 1,300 days as champion. Main event after main event. Clash of Champions, Royal Rumble, Crown Jewel, WrestleMania. He carried the belt through it all. unifying titles, closing shows, breaking merchandise records. SmackDown became his domain, and the bloodline controlled who got pushed and who got buried. And then came the fall. Not all at once. Not overnight. It was a slow unraveling. A chess game that finally ran out of moves. First came the cracks. Sami Zayn joined the faction in one of the most unlikely but captivating storylines in recent memory. His presence brought levity, tension, and a ticking time bomb. The moment Sami hit Roman with a steel chair at the Royal Rumble, the crowd exploded, not because they hated Roman, but because they finally saw the Empire bleeding. Then came the betrayal. JUSO, the loyal right-hand man, started showing doubt. Jimmy wasn't far behind. Solo stayed loyal, but even his silence became suspicious. And finally, at WrestleMania 40, the world watched it happen. Roman Reigns lost the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. The Empire fell. Cody Rhodes, the man who couldn't finish the story a year prior, finally did. He pinned Roman clean. 1, 2, 3. The undefeated streak in championship matches was over. The head of the table had been dethroned. But it wasn't just the title loss that mattered. It was the symbolism. Roman didn't lose because he was out-wrestled. He lost because his family fell apart around him. Because his control crumbled. Because the very structure he built turned against him. The bloodline, once a machine of fear and dominance, had collapsed. So why does all of that matter now? Because Roman Reigns hasn't said a word about it. Not a single promo. No post-match statement. No interview. No explanation. The man who ran WWE disappeared. And that silence has become deafening. It's not just about losing a belt. It's about losing control. Roman Reigns wasn't just the champion. He was the story. Every major arc in WWE connected back to him in some way. He was the filter. The ceiling. The final boss. And now he's gone. But if you know Roman's character arc, you know he's not gone for good. He's just regrouping. Watching. Waiting. Because someone like Roman Reigns doesn't just move on. He recalculates. What makes this even more dangerous is that when Roman returns, he's coming back without the bloodline to protect him. Or maybe worse, he's coming back with something else. A new version. A leaner, more vicious version of the tribal chief with nothing left to lose and something to prove. There's something historically terrifying about a champion who's already tasted power and now has to fight to get it back. Reigns ruled for so long that most of the locker room never even competed in a title picture without him. He warped the entire structure. Now that structure is wide open. And Seth Rollins stands at the center of it. This is where the stories converge. Rollins was never part of the bloodline. He was never invited in. He wasn't someone Roman needed to dominate, because deep down, Roman never fully got over what Seth did to him in 2014. The chair shot heard around the world. The birth of Seth's individual legacy. That wound never fully healed. Even during Roman's reign of terror, when he crushed legends and future stars alike, he never truly destroyed Seth. Their last major match ended in a disqualification. Seth got inside Roman's head, wore the Shield gear, used their history against him, and walked out still standing. That's rare. Now Seth is the World Heavyweight Champion. Not the Universal Champion. Not the WWE Champion. A new belt. A new lineage. But the timing couldn't be more poetic. Because in Roman's absence, Seth became the face of the company. The workhorse. The one who showed up every week, defended the title, carried Raw, and gave fans a reason to believe in championship matches again. It's not just about gold. It's about presence. Seth filled the void Roman left behind, and he did it on his own terms. But no matter how bright that spotlight is, everyone knows it doesn't shine the same until Roman Reigns is standing under it again. That's what makes this return feel so volatile. Roman isn't coming back to reclaim a belt. He's coming back to remind everyone who he is. To erase the failure of WrestleMania. To reset the narrative. And Seth Rollins, with that shiny new championship and that big SummerSlam energy, is the perfect target. The Bloodline era may be over, but its ghost still lingers. You can feel it in every promo. In every tease. In every nervous glance from Paul Heyman. Something's coming. Something big. WWE isn't moving on from the Bloodline. It's transitioning. Evolving. And Roman Reigns, whether he walks in alone or with a new alliance, will be the catalyst for that next phase. That's the danger. Because a Roman Reigns with nothing to lose is far more dangerous than the one who ruled with a crown. This version doesn't care about alliances. He doesn't need the Bloodline to win. He just needs a target. And right now, the World Heavyweight Championship is glowing like a beacon. Which brings us to the next question. Can Seth Rollins stop what the Bloodline never could? The answer lies in what happens next. If Roman Reigns built his legacy through power and control, Seth Rollins carved his name into WWE's upper tier through evolution and resilience. While Reigns enforced dominance, Rollins earned trust, from fans, from management, and from the business itself. He didn't just survive the modern era of WWE. He helped define it. Long before he was World Heavyweight Champion, before the stadium chants, before the suits and the laugh and the madness, Rollins was a man with a plan. The architect. The visionary. And no matter how his presentation shifted over the years, one constant remained: Rollins always delivered in the ring. That's what separates him. That's what makes this current reign feel different. Reigns ruled from the top. Rollins clawed his way back from the bottom, again and again. Look at his story after the Shield broke up. When Seth turned on Roman and Ambrose, he didn't just betray his brothers, he committed to walking a lonelier, harder path. Sure, he won titles fast. He became WWE champion. He aligned with the authority. But that early rise came with baggage. Fans didn't trust him. He didn't trust himself. And when the injuries hit, first the knee, then other lingering issues, Rollins had to confront what it meant to not be the guy anymore. He never stopped fighting. When Roman was ascending as the face of the company, Seth was experimenting. Trying to find something real. Burn it down. Messiah. Visionary. Fashion icon. Babyface. Heel. Hybrid. Whatever the label, Rollins never stopped adapting. And then something strange happened. The audience caught up. They stopped fighting his changes. They started to embrace them. They started to chant. Loudly. Passionately. Week after week, arena after arena. The entrances got longer. The suits got wilder. But it wasn't about costumes. It was about connection. Seth became something Roman never fully became until the Bloodline era, undeniably over. Rollins wasn't handed anything. He was tested. When WWE announced the new World Heavyweight Championship in 2023, many fans initially dismissed it. A secondary belt. A consolation prize for not beating Roman. But Rollins didn't treat it that way. He walked into Night of Champions and gave AJ Styles a match that felt like a WrestleMania main event. He won clean. No interference. No tricks. He stood tall and lifted that title high, not like a placeholder, but like a banner for a new era. And then, he went to work. While Roman's appearances became more sporadic, Rollins became a constant. Monday after Monday, match after match, promo after promo. He wasn't just defending a title. He was defending WWE's belief in itself. Look at the resume: matches with Finn Balor that told deep, psychological stories. Instant classics with Shinsuke Nakamura and Drew McIntyre. Promos that blurred the line between real pain and character fire. A brutal but respected open discussion about his chronic back injury and his choice to keep fighting. The man has been putting his body on the line with every defense, carrying a very real injury and still maintaining match of the night standards. That's not marketing. That's legacy work. The World Heavyweight Championship isn't just a belt around Seth's waist. It's a symbol of everything he stands for. Wrestling as performance. Wrestling as grit. Wrestling is something that never stops evolving. Now enter Roman. Roman doesn't evolve. He enforces. His character is built on consistency, control, calculated manipulation. He surrounds himself with leverage, Paul Heyman, Solo Sikoa, the Usos. Roman plays chess, and he's usually 5 moves ahead. He wins by domination. Seth wins by burning everything to the ground and dancing in the ashes. That's the core conflict. You've got 2 wrestlers who represent entirely different philosophies of what it means to be champion. Roman became the face of WWE by making himself untouchable. Seth became the heart of WWE by making himself available. He's been there. Every live show. Every press junket. Every late-night interview, podcast appearance, or promo segment. Even injured, he shows up. And he makes it work. And the fans recognize that. So now the stakes are elevated. If Roman Reigns does come back and challenges Seth for the World Heavyweight Championship, this isn't just about who's better in the ring. It's a question of who the company wants leading it. Seth was the bridge during Roman's absence. He kept Raw afloat. He kept the crowd invested in weekly programming. He proved that a world title could be exciting without being protected. That you didn't need 900-day reigns to create meaning. But here's the complication. That same vulnerability is what makes Rollins the most exposed champion on the roster. Every match takes a toll. Every injury slows the pace. And if Roman shows up before SummerSlam, the countdown starts ticking faster. Can Seth survive Roman's return? That's the looming tension. The fans know what Roman is capable of. He walks in, demands respect, and takes whatever he wants. He's done it to Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, Edge, Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens. Why not Rollins? But here's what makes this different. Roman's dominance is no longer fresh. The mystique cracked at WrestleMania 40. The cracks in the bloodline widened into a chasm. And for the first time in years, Roman will have to earn something without the structure that propped him up. Seth isn't coming into this match as the underdog. He's coming in as the standard. He's not chasing Roman. Roman is chasing him. That shift changes everything. Seth gets to be the face. The workhorse. The tested champion standing in the spotlight by himself. There's also a deeper personal story running underneath. Rollins has always carried a chip on his shoulder. He was the first Shield member to win a major singles title. The first to cash in Money in the Bank on the biggest stage of them all. The first to break away. But somehow, Reigns became the face of the company. Even when Rollins outworked everyone, the branding always leaned Roman. The marketing leaned Roman. The face on the poster was Roman. This is the first time in years Rollins holds a spotlight that's his alone. And if Roman tries to take that from him, Seth has every reason to fight harder than ever before. Because this isn't just a title match. It's validation. Rollins is no longer trying to be the top guy. He is the top guy. But Roman's return threatens to challenge that fact, and Seth knows it. That's why this match, this possible collision at SummerSlam or sooner, could be the most emotionally charged of either man's career. Not because of a belt. Because of what that belt represents. For Seth Rollins, it represents every night he showed up. Every sacrifice. Every evolution. Every time he lost himself to find himself again. For Roman Reigns, it represents something else entirely. A chance to rewrite the ending. And if Rollins isn't careful, the rewrite might be brutal. Because when Roman returns, he's not coming for applause. He's coming for everything. Monday Night Raw opened like any other night in the post-WrestleMania stretch. Matches announced, crowd buzzing, commentary team teasing the build towards SummerSlam. Business as usual. But something was off. About halfway through the broadcast, right after a backstage interview segment and just before a commercial break, the production team cut to a hallway shot. A camera panned across a quiet corridor in the arena. Nothing unusual at first. Some crates, a monitor, a couple production hands moving gear. Then, for less than 2 seconds, a shadow moved past a doorway. No name. No face. No sound cue. Just a movement. And then the feed cut to black. That's it. 2 seconds. But for WWE fans, 2 seconds is all it takes when you're trained to recognize a presence as powerful as Roman Reigns. Social media caught it instantly. Pause. Zoom. Enhance. Theories started rolling in. Was that Roman? Was it Solo? A returning star? A setup? A prank? The official WWE account didn't mention it. Commentary didn't acknowledge it. Nothing was confirmed or denied. But that silence only added to the intrigue. Because here's the truth, WWE doesn't do anything by accident. When a camera lingers, it's deliberate. When a segment seems random, it usually isn't. And when the shadow of someone long absent passes through the backstage area, especially someone as important as Roman Reigns, it's almost always the opening note of something major. This wasn't just a tease. It was a warning. And fans knew it. Within an hour, #RomanReigns was trending. Not because he appeared, he didn't. Not because he said anything, he didn't. But because the moment felt like Roman. It had the weight of his presence. The atmosphere changed. You could almost hear his theme building under the silence. That's power. Roman Reigns, without saying a word, managed to hijack an entire show. And that is exactly how WWE wants it. Let's back up. Roman hasn't appeared on WWE programming since his loss to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40. No promos. No surprise run-ins. Nothing. He's been completely absent. That's months without the company's biggest name. But the absence has been strategic. There's a long-standing rule in wrestling: a dominant heel becomes even more dangerous after a loss. Especially if he vanishes without explanation. The silence becomes tension. The space becomes anticipation. That's what WWE is doing here. They're building Roman's return the way you build a horror villain's comeback. Not with announcements. With shadows. The hallway moment wasn't meant to satisfy. It was meant to unsettle. That sense of looming danger. The idea that at any moment, the lights could drop, the music could hit, and Roman Reigns could walk out with a look that says, "I've been watching. And I'm taking everything back." Why now? The timing isn't random. SummerSlam is weeks away. WWE is assembling a stacked card: John Cena, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Gunther, and possibly Randy Orton. And yet, despite all that firepower, there's one name that casts a bigger shadow than all of them combined: Roman Reigns. He doesn't need to be booked. He just needs to be suspected. And the second WWE gave fans even a hint of his return, the speculation exploded. Would he challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship? Would he confront Cody? Would he rebuild the bloodline, or destroy it? That hallway shadow turned Raw into a speculative frenzy. Podcasts dissected it. Reddit ran frame-by-frame breakdowns. YouTubers posted 10-minute theories on body posture, lighting cues, and possible foreshadowing. Was that Solo Sikoa setting up a trap? Was Roman scoping the arena to pick his next move? Did Heyman know something? Why did the commentary team go quiet so fast? It's easy to laugh at how deep the fanbase digs, but that obsession is exactly the energy WWE wants. Because when Roman returns, they don't want it to feel like a surprise. They want it to feel like a reckoning. That hallway shot was the calm before the storm. Here's what makes it even more interesting: the location. The camera lingered near production crates, gear often staged near the gorilla position or pre-match staging area. That's the same kind of location Roman used for strategic ambushes during his title reign. Remember when he sucker-punched Kevin Owens before TLC? Or when he attacked Jey Uso backstage to teach him respect? WWE likes to echo visual storytelling. This hallway moment didn't just tease his presence. It visually linked back to previous moments of Roman asserting dominance. In other words, he's not just returning. He's reclaiming territory. The metaphor is subtle, but it matters. Roman isn't going to waltz back in and challenge Seth Rollins in the middle of the ring with a handshake and a contract. He's going to make his presence felt the way apex predators do: slow, calculated, and inevitable. This moment also reminded fans of one crucial fact: Roman doesn't need a match to take control of a show. He just needs a moment. A camera angle. A second of silence. That's how you know a performer has transcended the usual WWE structure. Roman doesn't need to wrestle every week to be relevant. His power comes from absence, from suggestion, from the gravitational pull he exerts over everything else. Even now, Seth Rollins is defending his title weekly, putting on incredible matches, pouring his body into every segment. But all anyone's talking about after Raw is the hallway. The shadow. The return of the tribal chief. That's Roman's superpower. But that power cuts both ways. Because now the expectation is set. Roman has been teased. The fans are watching. The audience is primed. The next step has to be big. You can't drop a teaser like that and then slow play it for weeks. WWE understands timing. When they start laying the breadcrumbs, the return is usually right around the corner. Expect a full reveal in one of two ways. Option 1, Roman returns during a main event confrontation, possibly a title match between Seth and another top-tier opponent. The lights go out. The music hits. Roman appears at the top of the ramp. No words. Just a stare. And suddenly, the next chapter begins. Option 2, he shows up on a mic, not to challenge, but to dismiss. Roman might frame the World Heavyweight Championship as beneath him. He might taunt Seth. Undermine the belt. That kind of psychological gain would be pure Roman, setting the bait without appearing desperate. Either way, the tease has worked. The shadow has become substance. And now, the countdown has begun. What comes next will define how this story unfolds. But one thing is already clear: Roman Reigns didn't just leave WWE after WrestleMania. He left a void. And now, he's coming back to fill it, with force. SummerSlam has always been one of WWE's Big Four events, but this year, it feels different. Bigger. Not just because of the stadium venue or the roster depth, but because of the way WWE has been laying out the board in silence, leaving breadcrumbs, planting seeds, hinting at something massive. And all of it points to one thing: Roman Reigns is coming back. Not just to compete, but to control the narrative again. The company has been too quiet about him. And when WWE gets quiet about someone that important, it's not because they've moved on. It's because they're saving him. Let's break down how WWE has been quietly building toward what could be their most stacked SummerSlam in a decade, and how every storyline, push, and promo is quietly orbiting the same gravitational force. Roman Reigns. First, let's talk structure. Right now, the card is shaping up with two possible main events: Cody Rhodes vs. John Cena, a clash of generations, redemption, and unfinished stories, and a second headliner involving Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight Championship. And that's where the mystery thickens. The rumors have been swirling for weeks: Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Gunther. 4 massive names. 4 distinct legacies. All circling the same title. All possible contenders for one epic match. WWE hasn't confirmed anything. That's by design. What they've done instead is more clever and subtle. They've positioned every one of these men to intersect without fully colliding yet, creating a tension that feels ready to explode. And that's classic WWE long-form storytelling. Let's examine the clues. First, Gunther. He dropped the Intercontinental Championship after a legendary reign. No coincidence. WWE rarely takes a belt off someone with that much momentum unless they're preparing them for something bigger. He hasn't declared his intentions yet, but he doesn't need to. Every fan watching knows he's next in line for world title contention. Second, CM Punk. Despite being injured, he's been involved in multiple high-profile promos and verbal wars. He's teased his beef with Rollins on air, made subtle digs at Roman Reigns during live events, and appeared during Raw and SmackDown and backstage segments without committing to any clear story. That vagueness is intentional. Punk is being saved for something major. Then there's Seth Rollins, doing exactly what champions are supposed to do. Showing up every week, defending the title, getting hurt, still fighting, and talking like a man who's holding the entire company together with duct tape and defiance. He's not just building his credibility, he's building emotional investment. Now fold in Roman Reigns, absent but mentioned in whispers, all while WWE reshapes the main event scene to feel volatile. It's like watching storm clouds roll in during a heat wave. You don't see the rain yet, but you can feel the air changing. Look at the storytelling cues. WWE keeps referencing the Bloodline's collapse, even in unrelated matches. Commentary drops Roman's name whenever Solo Sikoa appears, or when Paul Heyman looks uneasy. Seth Rollins has name-dropped Roman in multiple promos, not directly calling him out, but acknowledging his looming presence. CM Punk has been speaking more like a prophet than a challenger, hinting at unfinished business and unfinished fights. Gunther has said less, but stood in a way that says more. And this is where WWE's mastery of spacing comes into play. None of these guys have touched each other yet, but they've orbiting the same space. And that's the magic trick. Because now, every possible scenario feels valid. WWE has engineered a puzzle where any piece could connect, but none have been locked in. That's how you build anticipation without giving away the result. There are 4 ways this story could pay off, and WWE has left each door slightly open. Scenario 1, the Fatal 4-Way. Roman vs. Seth vs. CM Punk vs. Gunther. It would be the biggest multi-man main event WWE has booked in years, for top-tier names, all with legitimate claims. It protects each star from eating a clean loss, it creates chaos, and it guarantees a hot crowd. Scenario 2, the Triple Threat. Roman vs. Seth vs. CM Punk. Same energy, but tighter focus. More story. More venom. More betrayal. It leans into the Shield history, Punk's outsider edge, and Seth's need to survive. Scenario 3, Roman vs. Seth, one-on-one. Old school. Personal. Deep. A story a decade in the making. If WWE wants to anchor Night 2 of SummerSlam with legacy heat and real drama, this is the one. Scenario 4, Roman doesn't challenge, he ruins the match. Imagine SummerSlam's main event is Seth vs. Punk or Seth vs. Gunther. The crowd is electric. The match is a clinic. And then, out of nowhere, Roman returns and obliterates them both. No warning. No announcement. Just carnage. That kind of ending doesn't just ignite the story, it opens the road to War Games at Survivor Series. And that's another big clue. WWE has already confirmed Roman Reigns for Survivor Series, and they've confirmed it will once again be built around War Games. That's huge. It means Roman's return isn't a cameo. He's not popping in for a brief run. WWE is building a multi-month arc, something that stretches from SummerSlam through to the end of the year. That means alliances, betrayals, faction warfare. Possibly even a new version of the bloodline. Remember, Solo Sikoa hasn't picked a side. Jimmy Uso is AWOL. Jay is on Raw. Heyman is spiraling. What if Roman's return includes a full reset of his empire, with new blood, new motives, and one target, the World Heavyweight Championship? That would explain why WWE is being so careful right now. They're laying groundwork, not just for a big return, but for a full narrative shift. Every detail supports this. Reigns is being advertised for the exact shows that follow SummerSlam. Seth's character is visibly stretched thin, injured, paranoid, surrounded by enemies. CM Punk's return has been delayed just long enough to make a SummerSlam match possible. Gunther is untethered from the IC division and entering open space. And the biggest sign of all? The crowd is ready. You can feel it in the chants. In the way people cheer Seth's resilience. In the way Punk's name still sparks debate. In the silence that follows Solo's entrances. The audience is waiting for someone to make the first move. That's how you know a return is close. And it's why WWE's breadcrumbs feel so deliberate. They're not rushing Roman's return. They're loading the gun. The hallway tease on Raw was the first shot. Survivor Series confirmation was the second. SummerSlam posters being leaked without title matches finalized? That's not sloppy promotion. That's intentional withholding. Because WWE knows what they're doing. They're making Roman Reigns feel inevitable again. And when he walks down that ramp, whether it's before SummerSlam, during it, or right after it, everything else will rearrange around him. Seth Rollins might be the architect of this era. But Roman Reigns? He's the earthquake. And SummerSlam will be ground zero. WWE has always thrived on tension. Sometimes it's personal. Sometimes it's political. And sometimes, rarely, it's gravitational. For massive stars, for unstoppable forces, pulled into the same orbit by nothing more than timing, momentum, and a golden prize. This is that moment. There's a theory floating around among insiders, fans, and online sleuths that's gaining steam by the day. SummerSlam's Night 2 main event will be a fatal four-way match for the World Heavyweight Championship, Roman Reigns vs. Seth Rollins vs. CM Punk vs. Gunther. It sounds explosive because it is. But more than that, it feels like something WWE has been subtly preparing for all year. Let's unpack it. Start with the simplest premise: these four men represent the pillars of WWE's modern legacy. Roman Reigns is the warlord. The face of dominance. The man who made championships feel like relics of royalty. Whether he's active or not, the narrative often circles back to him. Every major victory carries the unspoken question: what happens when Roman returns? Seth Rollins is the engine. The workhorse who's kept the machine moving during Roman's absence. He didn't just wear the World Heavyweight Championship, he legitimized it. Match after match, night after night, he made that belt feel important. He made it feel earned. CM Punk is the spark. The rebel returned. He's the voice of a crowd that still chants his name 10 years later. He's the unfinished story. The chaos agent. And most importantly, he's still a top-tier talker and thinker in the business. The moment he stepped back into WWE, the energy changed. Gunther is the problem. The new force. A machine who doesn't talk much but leaves bodies wherever he goes. His intercontinental reign wasn't a record, it was a reign of terror. And now that he's free of it, everyone knows what comes next. Gunther doesn't play mid-card. 4 different styles. 4 different histories. And yet, all of them share one thing in common right now: they all feel like they could be the guy. So why a fatal 4-way? Because sometimes, the smartest move isn't picking one star. It's creating a match so big, so chaotic, that it forces the audience to stop asking who should win, and start asking what the hell is going to happen? Let's talk logic. A multi-man match creates flexibility. It lets WWE protect key players. No one needs to eat a clean loss, inject drama, alliances, betrayals, mid-match twists, deliver unpredictability. Fans won't know what to expect, but even more importantly, it lets WWE maximize every name's value. Each of these four men is a headliner on their own. But together? It's a nuclear booking decision. Here's how the match might stack up, both in narrative and physical pacing. Roman Reigns would play the alpha. The returning king. The man who doesn't need the match, but chooses to dominate it. He'd show up with entitlement and history on his side. He's not there to win a belt. He's there to take it back. Seth Rollins would be the heart. The wounded champion, battered but proud. Coming in with bad ribs, a strained back, maybe even a taped-up leg. But he'd fight like a man possessed. A man who knows he's surrounded and still refuses to kneel. CM Punk would bring mind games. He'd enter to the biggest reaction of the night, then play everyone like puppets. He'd pick his spots, sow confusion, bait Roman, needle Seth, ambush Gunther. Every smirk would be a weapon. Gunther would bring the violence. No promos. No games. Just strikes. Gunther would turn this into a brawl every time it slowed down. Powerbombs. Chops. Sleeper holds. He'd be the match's anchor, the one who drags everyone into deep water. Now let's talk psychology. Because that's where this match gets interesting. Rollins versus Reigns is a long story. Betrayal. Brotherhood. Complicated respect. Reigns has never truly defeated Seth clean. Seth has always managed to get under Roman's skin. In this match, that tension would explode. Years of unfinished business, finally brought into the open. Rollins versus Punk is venom. These two have taken real-life shots at each other. They've danced around the edge of the internet war. Rollins has called Punk a cancer. Punk has fired back. The crowd knows it's personal, even if the promos stay professional. Their hatred would feel radioactive. Punk versus Reigns is the one we've never really had. Back when Punk was top dog, Roman was still rising. Now the roles have reversed. Punk has called out the bloodline, questioned Roman's reign, and mocked Heyman's loyalty. That's not subtle. That's foreshadowing. Gunther versus anyone is a test. He's never shared a ring with these three on this stage. He's the unknown variable. The crowd doesn't know how he'll mix. But they know he'll hurt people. And that's the genius of this setup. WWE can plant seeds for multiple future feuds, all in one match. You get instant payoff, long-term story potential, and a landmark main event that makes SummerSlam must-see. Here's what a possible finish could look like. Gunther hits a powerbomb on Punk. Rollins hits a stomp on Gunther. Roman Superman punches Seth. Crowd explodes. Roman goes for the spear. Seth counters. Pedigree. But Seth's too hurt to cover. Punk crawls in, tries to steal the pin. Roman throws him out of the ring and covers Seth instead. 1, 2, 3. Roman Reigns wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Chaos. Boos. Cheers. Confusion. Seeds planted for Punk versus Roman. Seth versus Punk. Gunther versus Reigns. The entire landscape tilts. Or maybe Rollins survives. Maybe Roman eats a loss. Maybe Punk wins by cheating. Every outcome tells a different story. That's what makes it work. It's not just about putting 4 stars in the same match. It's about creating a stage where any one of them can walk out looking like the future of WWE. And here's the best part, no matter who wins, it doesn't end there. If Roman wins, he becomes the unified force again, but now carrying a different belt. That instantly reshapes the title picture and opens the road to a new bloodline era. If Rollins retains, he cements himself as the guy who outworked everyone, including Roman. That becomes a badge of honor no one else can claim. If Punk wins, it triggers the next phase of WWE chaos. A heel turn. A war with Seth. A power struggle with Roman. You name it. If Gunther wins, WWE sends the strongest message they've made in years: we're building something new, and this is your guy now. It's rare to have four men this hot at the same time. It's rarer still to have a match where all four outcomes feel valid. That's why the Fatal 4-Way theory isn't just fan service. It's the smartest booking decision WWE can make. Because sometimes, the best way to answer a question is to ask for more. Who's the real top guy? Who walks out of SummerSlam with the gold? And most importantly, what happens when they all walk in with something to lose, and only one walks out with it all? SummerSlam may be a destination. But this match? This is the detonation. WWE thrives on spectacle. But it also thrives on emotion, on history, on the kind of layered storytelling that draws from the past to shake the present. That's where the triple threat idea starts to gain momentum, because sometimes, cutting the field down makes the story more powerful. Strip away Gunther. Remove the outside force. And you're left with three men whose careers have been tied together for over a decade: Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, CM Punk. Three alphas. Three philosophies. Three unfinished stories that finally, inevitably, collide. This isn't just a wrestling match. It's a reckoning. Let's break down why this version of the SummerSlam main event might be the most emotionally explosive match WWE could book right now, and why it might deliver more drama, more story, and more aftermath than a Fatal 4-Way ever could. Start with the timeline. CM Punk returned to WWE after nearly a decade away. When he did, he didn't come back to nostalgia pops. He came back with targets. Seth Rollins. Roman Reigns. The company that moved on without him. The fans who still chant his name. The chaos of it all. Punk didn't name-drop Roman right away. He didn't have to. The tension was implied. But with Seth, it was direct. Punk and Rollins have exchanged real-life barbs across podcasts, social media, and backstage whispers. It's not fabricated heat, it's competitive fire, and WWE knows how to use that. Then there's the Roman connection. Punk was the original Paul Heyman guy. He was the guy who defended Heyman when no one else did. Who repped the brand, the philosophy, the voice of the voiceless badge of honor. And when he left, Paul Heyman needed a new project. He found it in Roman Reigns. That's not just convenient. That's fuel for a fire that's been smoldering for a decade. Imagine the tension of that stare down. Punk on one side. Roman on the other. Heyman in the middle. Silent. Visibly torn. Now layer in the Shield history. Rollins and Roman. Brothers turned enemies turned legends. They've crossed paths many times, but they've never finished the story. Their matches have always ended with interference, DQs, or unresolved emotions. Add CM Punk, the man who helped build the Shield from behind the curtain, and suddenly you're looking at a full-circle match with no clean alliances and no one you can fully trust. A triple threat gives the story room to breathe. No distractions. No red herrings. Just three men who represent different eras, ideologies, and visions for what WWE is supposed to be. Let's talk match psychology. Roman Reigns enters as the displaced king. He's lost his empire, his belt, his faction. Now he returns not just to win, but to prove he never needed anyone. No Usos. No Solo. Just Roman. Dangerous, deliberate, and utterly focused. Seth Rollins comes in as the battle-tested champion. Hurt. Paranoid. Carrying the pressure of holding WWE together while Roman was gone. He's not just fighting for the title. He's fighting to defend everything he's built in Roman's absence. CM Punk is the intruder. The wild card. The ghost of WWE's past who now demands a place in its present. He doesn't want redemption. He wants disruption. Punk isn't interested in making friends. He's interested in making statements, and winning gold in the process. Each man has a unique goal. Roman wants power. Seth wants validation. Punk wants revenge. And none of them can get what they want without taking something away from the other two. Triple threat matches offer something rare in wrestling: chaos with consequence. In singles matches, there's focus. In fatal four-ways, there's unpredictability. But in triple threats, there's urgency. Every move has double the risk. Every alliance is temporary. And every second someone stays down, the match can end without them. That's what makes this dangerous for Rollins. He could lose the title without being pinned. Punk could hit a GTS on Roman, cover him, and walk out champion while Seth lies outside the ring, helpless. Or Roman could spear Punk through the barricade, crawl into the ring, and beat Seth clean in the middle. Or Seth could dodge a GTS, curb stomp Punk, and roll Roman into a cradle for the win. All of these finishes feel possible. That's how you create tension. But it's not just about the outcome. It's about the aftermath. Each finish sets up months of content. If Roman wins, he reclaims the throne, but now with a more personal edge. He didn't need the bloodline. He didn't need help. He beat the best of the past and present in one night. That sets him up for a new kind of dominance, one not tied to family, but to pride. If Seth wins, he gets the biggest win of his career. He finally proves he's not in Roman's shadow. That he's the true champion of this generation. And that becomes the anchor for his ongoing title run, and perhaps a final boss feud with Gunther or Cody. If Punk wins, chaos reigns. The most controversial figure in wrestling becomes the face of the company. The locker room erupts. The crowd splits. The stories write themselves: Punk versus Rollins 2, Punk versus Roman, Punk versus the system. It's nuclear booking. And the best part? There's no bad outcome. That's the strength of this setup. You have 3 top-tier storytellers. 3 guys who can talk, wrestle, sell, and anchor shows. Put them in the ring with stakes this high, and you don't just get a great match. You get a moment. A generational moment. And that might be exactly what WWE is aiming for. Because SummerSlam 2025 isn't just about titles anymore. It's about defining where the company goes next. Is it Roman's return to dominance? Seth's coronation as the true face? Punk's rise as the anti-hero champion? In a triple threat, the spotlight is shared. But the winner walks away with everything. No excuses. No interference. Just one final shot to claim the legacy that's been 10 years in the making. This is how you take the past, the present, and the future, and make them fight for control of the now. Survivor Series has always been the event where factions collide, rivalries boil over, and legacies are tested. It's the one night a year where alliances are fragile, betrayals are sudden, and chaos reigns in structured combat. But in recent years, Survivor Series has evolved. It's no longer just Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. It's War Games, a steel and cage battlefield built not just for wrestling, but for warfare. And this year, it's going to be different. Because this year, Roman Reigns is confirmed for Survivor Series 2025. That fact alone has shifted the balance of everything WWE is doing from SummerSlam forward. His return at or before SummerSlam will just be the opening move. War Games will be the payoff. And WWE has made it clear, they're building something monumental. Let's talk strategy. War Games is a match that thrives on conflict between groups. Teams of 4 or 5. Locked in a double ring structure. Surrounded by steel. No escape. No outside interference. No easy way out. Just carnage. So how does Roman Reigns fit into that kind of environment? Perfectly. Because even though the bloodline has imploded, fractured, and nearly vanished from television, Roman's presence at Survivor Series tells us something crucial: his war isn't over. It's just changing shape. Let's rewind a little. The Bloodline was once the most dominant faction WWE had seen in decades. Roman, the Usos, Solo, Heyman. Together, they didn't just win, they controlled. They rewrote how stables operated. They elevated SmackDown. They shaped entire pay-per-view cards. But after WrestleMania 40, it collapsed. Cody Rhodes pinned Roman. The Usos broke ranks. Solo started doing his own thing. And Roman disappeared. Now he's coming back. But there is no Bloodline. Or is there? Here's where things get interesting. WWE has confirmed Roman for Survivor Series. They've confirmed the War Games format is returning. And they've teased other huge names for the event: Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, John Cena, Gunther, Solo Sikoa, Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton. Too many stars. Too many tensions. And way too much history. That's not accidental. That's intentional overloading. Because War Games isn't just a match, it's a reset button. It's where WWE blows the doors off and sets the next 6 months of storytelling in motion. Roman's presence guarantees he'll either lead a team, anchor a faction, or attack one. But the real question is this: who will stand with him? And who will stand against him? Let's look at the possibilities. Option 1. The new Bloodline Roman comes back with a new squad. Not family. Not loyalty. Just strategy. Maybe Solo Sikoa falls back in line, rebuilt as the silent executioner. Maybe he recruits NXT talent like Jacob Fatu or a rebranded heel from Raw. Maybe Paul Heyman finds fresh muscle to restore the Empire. Roman wouldn't rebuild the Bloodline to mirror the past. He'd do it to prove he doesn't need family, he needs weapons. Imagine a unit like Roman Reigns, leader; Solo Sikoa, enforcer; JD McDonough, tactician; Braun Breaker, power; Paul Heyman, mastermind at ringside. This group wouldn't be bound by love. They'd be bound by fear and ambition. That kind of unit could walk into War Games and destroy everything. Option 2, the anti-Roman alliance on the other side: you build the team that's had enough. Seth Rollins, world champion or challenger. Cody Rhodes, the man who finished Roman. CM Punk, the man who wants to expose him. Jey Uso, the brother who broke free. Randy Orton, the veteran who's not done yet. This would be a team fueled by scars. Each man has a reason to hate Roman. Each man has taken hits from him, physically, psychologically, politically. Together, they'd be chaos in motion. A team of leaders with too much pride to quit. Now imagine that clash. 2 rings. 10 men. Weapons. History. Strategy. Betrayals. Roman walks in calm, composed, almost godlike. Cody walks in furious. Seth limps in, bruised but defiant. Punk smirks, knowing this could be his final shot at Roman. And Jey's the powder keg. The bell rings. The gates close. And everything explodes. This is the moment WWE has been building to, the true fallout from the collapse of the Bloodline. A power vacuum with too many contenders. A battlefield with no rules. And the one man at the center of it all, Roman Reigns. But what makes this scenario even more compelling is the potential for betrayal. Because in War Games, no team stays stable for long. What if Solo turns on Roman mid-match? What if Punk walks out, claiming he was never really on anyone's side? What if Cody uses the chaos to finally get Roman alone in the ring again? These aren't plot twists. They're setup points, moves WWE has been hinting at since WrestleMania. Remember, Survivor Series happens just months before Royal Rumble. WWE uses it to start feuds that peak at WrestleMania. So the team dynamics in War Games will bleed into the road to WrestleMania 41. And Roman will be at the center of it. Maybe he gets pinned at Survivor Series. Maybe he wins but loses control of his team. Maybe he walks out early, furious, promising to finish this alone. Whatever happens, this is Roman's next war. Not for a title. Not for gold. For relevance. For revenge. For survival. Because the version of Roman Reigns walking into Survivor Series won't be the same man who walked out of WrestleMania 40. He'll be colder. More tactical. Less trusting. More willing to burn everything down, because it was already taken from him once. That kind of Roman is dangerous. He doesn't care about the audience. He doesn't care about legacy. He wants one thing, control. And War Games gives him the perfect arena to take it back, or die trying. In the end, Survivor Series isn't just about who stands tall. It's about who walks out, and who gets carried. Because when Roman Reigns returns to War, it's not just a match. It's a message.